The Cincinnati Bengals travel to Houston to face the Texans in Wild Card Weekend's first game. BETDAQ currently has Houston installed as a 4.5-point favorite in this game. 43 is the total. These teams, if you remember, met last year in the first round of the playoffs. Texans won that game 31-10. That was the first playoff win in franchise history for the Texans. TJ Yates was playing quarterback at that point because of injuries to Matt Schaub and then backup Matt Leinart. Now, the way Schaub and the Texans offense has been playing lately, I'm sure some Houston fans wouldn't mind if TJ Yates got a shot to play quarterback on Saturday. I'm telling you, the Texans have not been able to score here over the last month, and it's very puzzling. Through the first half of the season, this was a top 5 offense, very balanced, dominating in the rushing game with Arian Foster, who's one of the top 5 backs in the league. And now they're healthier in the running game. Foster's had a little bit of a problem, a heart problem. They didn't elaborate on what it was, but he's been playing through it. But Ben Tate, who's the other back there, their second best running back, he's been healthy the last few weeks. He's been back, so it's really a little mystifying as to why they've had so many problems, but they have. And maybe it's been Matt Schaub. Matt Schaub's taken a lot of the blame, and no doubt the numbers, statistically, Houston has gotten worse in the passing game over the last month. You know, only managing 16 points in the last game, a must-win game that they lost against the Indianapolis Colts. Only 6 points the week before at home against Minnesota. 14 a couple of weeks before that, and that blowout loss to the New England Patriots. Through 12 weeks, Houston was 11-1. They had a 2-game lead in the race for home field in the AFC playoffs. With only 4 games left, not only could they not lock up home field, but they're playing this weekend. They couldn't even lock up a bye. Lost 3 out of their last 4 games. And I do put most of it on the offense. Now, I realize the Houston defense has been exposed a little bit over the last couple of months, especially in the secondary. But these last few games, the latest collapse, especially the last 2 losses to Indianapolis and Minnesota, most of the blame should fall on the shoulders of the offense and maybe, I guess, to Matt Schaub. Now, the reason I'm saying maybe, I guess, is because I hesitate a little bit. I mean, I think Matt Schaub is pretty good. I still think the Texans are pretty good, but I thought they were going to beat the Colts last week. I thought they were going to beat the Vikings the week before last, so maybe I'm just missing the boat here. Maybe Houston is a lot worse than I think they are. Certainly, they've been bad for the last month, and if they couldn't win the last 2 games, which were must-win situations, last week, certainly a must-win against Indianapolis. If they would have won that game, they wouldn't be playing this week for one thing, would have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. If they couldn't win that game in a must-win situation, what's to make me or anybody else think they can win this week's game against the Cincinnati Bengals, who come in here winning 7 out of their last 8? And we talked about Houston's problems on offense. The Bengals have been playing as well on defense as any team in the NFL over the last 8 games, bar none. Seattle, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, whoever you want, they haven't been playing any better on defense than the Cincinnati Bengals. In this stretch, they've won 7 out of the last 8, as I said. In those 7 wins, they have not allowed any opponent to score more than 17 points. And that one opponent that got to 17, that was the Baltimore Ravens last week when the Bengals rested a lot of their defensive starters in the second half. So their other 6 wins, they had won 6 out of their 7 games before last week's game. They didn't allow any of those 6 opponents to score more than 13. I mean, they have been locking teams down. A great defensive line. These defensive ends, Carlos Dunlap, Michael Johnson, they get after the passer. Geno Atkins, great at defensive tackle. Solid linebacking core, a good secondary. There's not a weakness in this Bengals defense. And you look at the total here is 43. It's the lowest total of the 4 games this weekend, but I do lean towards the under here because even though the Bengals have been really good on defense, and so I do expect them to have a lot of success in slowing down this Houston offense that has been sputtering, you know, the Bengals haven't been playing very well on offense. And the fact that they've won a lot of games and the fact that their defense played so well, I think that sort of masked the fact that they haven't been very good on offense. Andy Dalton has been very average in his 2nd year in the NFL. Cincinnati, 22nd in total offense. They do have one of the best wide receivers in the league in A.J. Green, a legitimate top 4 or 5 wide receiver. And if they're going to victimize the Houston secondary in this game, and Houston secondary has shown they're vulnerable over the last few games, it is going to be A.J. Green, I think, who's making a lot of those plays. But I'm not sure Cincinnati is going to be able to do it. I'm not sure they're going to have a whole lot of success on offense in this game, which is why I do lean towards the under. And, you know, these teams have been playing a whole lot of under football lately, because of what we mentioned. Because of the fact that Cincinnati's been playing great defense and has struggled on offense. because of the fact that Houston has been so bad on offense. The under is 7-1 in Cincinnati's last 8 games, 4-1 in Houston's last 5. Now, the Texans have dominated matchups with Cincinnati recently, 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 meetings, including last year in the first-round playoff game, as we said, a 31-10 Houston win. And I think Houston's going to win this game. And to be honest with you, when the line first came out, I had a strong lean towards Houston minus 4.5. But the more I look at this game, the more the week goes along here, I feel less and less sure about that, to the point where I'm at the point now, if I have a play on Houston here, it is going to be on the money line. I'm just going to bite the bullet. I know it's not going to pay very well, but I don't feel comfortable laying the 4.5 points here because I do expect a close, low-scoring game. I think the bet I like a little more is under 43.